Hey guys, let's have a talk about Trayvax. Trayvax is one of my favorite companies right now. They are an American owned and operated manufacturing, and they're primarily focused on making quality leather products in the US. Mostly that entails wallets. I've been using Trayvax products since June of 2016. That's when I picked up my first wallet from them. It's an Element, and it's in the color that they call Mississippi Mud. It's a great wallet. I carried it for 2 years. And then if you look, the coating that they used to use on their wallets, it actually began to flake off. It was black. The coating was black. So even though it's still fully functional and it's still a great wallet, I've regulated this to just storage right now. It'll probably go to like my kid once he's old enough to use it. My girlfriend has expressed interest in actually carrying it, but it hasn't happened yet. So that'll probably go to him when he's old enough to actually carry it around and, put a driver's license in there. When I replaced this in March of 2018, the main reason for that was because I actually picked up a couple of their belts. These are their cinch belts. They're just a nylon belt with a fairly simple aluminum closure. So I picked up a couple of these because the leather belt I had at the time was just some cheap piece of crap from Walmart, and it was coming apart, and I needed a new belt, so I picked up two of those, the silver one you just saw, along with a black one as well. The only difference is the anodized black belt buckle instead of the silver. Because I was picking those up, I decided it would be a good time to also pick up a new element. So this is the element that I bought in 2018, March of 2018, and it's in their burgundy color. When I was carrying that first element, I had no complaints. It worked great, better than I would have ever thought. So it was really no question that I wanted to replace it with another element. You can see this one is still fully black, and the reason for that is they actually changed the finish on the metal portion of these wallets to a melanite finish. So they're a company that they stand behind their products, they listen to their customers. If they have an issue, they fix it. This has not flaked off, chipped, anything in the time that I've had it, which is about a year and a half now. So I have no question that that's going to keep going strong. Again, I wouldn't have even replaced the original element, except that I was placing another order with them anyways for a belt. So along with that, I picked up a new element. They do have another new wallet I want to try out. That's the Contour. If anything does happen to my current element, that's the route I'm going to take, is to pick up a Contour. But for now, what we're looking at is something new from Trayvax. Something they've never really done before, and that is produce a knife. So what you see in front of you is the Trayvax Trek. Picked this up in their Kickstarter for the knife, actually. They ran a Kickstarter campaign because this is the first knife that they've ever made. The version that I bought is their premium steel version. This is made entirely one piece out of S35 VN steel. Now, I haven't had a knife in S35 VN before. However, I do have a couple of knives. One in S30V, which is a Benchmade crooked river, as well as another Benchmade in S90V. It escapes me what specific knife model that is right now, but I can tell you both of those knife steels have been very nice for me. And they tend to hold an edge very well. They're incredibly corrosion resistant, and they'll actually take an edge fairly well too. So typically when you have an edge that holds it very well, it's very hard to put an edge on it. That's not been my experience with S30V or S90V, so I expect that this S35VN will be along the same lines. This is kind of just a first look. This just arrived in the mail at my house today. I've carried it throughout the day today, so I do have the smallest amount of experience that you can possibly have with actually how it performs and how it carries. But I can tell you both of those are fairly impressive. So this knife, as I said, solid piece of S35VN there. Balance point is, let's see here, right there somewhere. Let's see. There you go. So it balances on the finger groove, which makes it very nice. It feels nice and light. You can see the thumb jimping on the back. I really like that Trayvax logo as well. This is blade profile. And they did put a reasonable edge on here. It's not the sharpest thing I have. Like I said, I think that S90V knife that I have is probably the sharpest, but this comes pretty close. I might try to put a sharper edge on there, but it works pretty well. I was able to cut some paper pretty well. I used it to cut some ginger I was chopping for dinner. This knife, when I bought it, like I said, it was in a Kickstarter campaign. I got in on the early bird. I was actually the 10th buyer overall in the Kickstarter campaign. So this knife, along with the sheath, cost me $120 plus $5 for shipping. Because I was so quick in on the Kickstarter, they did actually throw in this Work Sharp guarded field sharpener. I have not used this at all. I plan on probably tossing this into a backpack, probably my camping backpack. That way, in the field, if I need to sharpen it, I can do that. It even, this works for axes, everything like that. So this is a nice little bonus, but that's kind of beside the point. I got that for just being kind of a Trayvax loyalist. I was just ready and waiting for that Kickstarter to start, and I was able to get through as number 10. So first 50 people who bought the S35VN knife were able to score that bonus item. But like I said, so the knife with the sheath, which is a nice high quality leather sheath. They are a leather company at heart, so the two items cost me $120. That is down because I bought it through a Kickstarter campaign. It's approximately 50% off what their MSRP is going to be for this knife. They're saying it's going to be $240 for the knife sheath combo. I think at $120 it is a pretty good value. Because it's a solid piece of very high quality premium steel, I don't really have any qualms with that price. 120 bucks, and then that quality leather sheath to go with it. That we'll take a look at that sheath a little more in a few minutes, but along with the S35VN version, which you see in front of you, they did also offer a 440C stainless version. S35VN is stainless as well, but 440C is a more common version. In the Kickstarter, that was $90. I guess that's going up to $150 retail. So $150 for the 440C version along with the sheath. Their original estimated delivery for their Kickstarter was May of this year. When I saw that, when I saw that they were aiming for May, I thought it was fairly ambitious. Like I mentioned, this is their first knife. They've done other products with metal before, like the Elements. And it's a pretty sizable chunk of metal in there that they've had to machine. So they knew how to work with leather. They know how to work with metal. But I knew going into the Kickstarter that that was fairly ambitious. Today is August 10th. And as I mentioned, it was just delivered today. So they did overshoot a little bit. However, it wasn't that painful because throughout the process, they issued plenty of status updates. They did go through a revision of the sheath. So this originally came with either a left side carry or a right side carry sheath. And they actually introduced an additional model, which is called a combination. And what that allows you to do is you can see there's a hole through the sheath this way. And there's also a hole through the sheath this way. And that allows you to either have it ride on your belt in a standard vertical orientation or horizontally. And what the revision was is they originally had both the basic sheath that just rides vertically, and they had the combination sheath like this, both right-handed, I believe. I think the change that they made was to release left-handed versions of both of those. And they just sent out a survey in the Kickstarter to see what version you wanted. I chose the right-handed combination carry, which allows me to carry it either on my right hip vertically, or, and this is how I've been carrying it today, horizontally on my left front side. And that has been very comfortable, actually. I was concerned a little bit because it is a fixed blade knife, so you've got a reasonable amount of length there, 3.5-inch blade. So I was a little worried. However, when it is sheathed, I would say only maybe the last half an inch really printed at all, carrying it on one of their cinch belts in just a normal t-shirt. I've got 511 shorts on right now, and then their cinch belt with just a plain cotton t-shirt. Like I said, it was just barely printing on the front of my torso towards my belly button, just a small amount, and that's in the horizontal carry position. When I did carry it on the back of my hip vertically, I did have more issues. It printed less initially. However, if any of you out there are concealed carry guys, you know exactly how this goes. I would reach up for something on a shelf, or I would bend over, and then your shirt just doesn't go back to the position that it was in. It gets hung up either on here, or the bottom pokes out. It just was not as convenient as having it horizontal on the front of me. And initially, when I set it up that way, I was a little worried about comfort. I mean, I have a little bit of a beer gut going on. That didn't turn out to be an issue for me. Having it there all day, very comfortable. So when you're sitting, it completely alleviates the printing issue. So my shirt completely covered it at that point. I had no concerns about that. One thing I did notice is when I was using this for cooking, the design of the handle reminds me almost of like a neck knife or like a dagger. Like it's skeletonized, it feels very light. This, gripping it this way with my thumb on the jimping and my finger wrapped around here, makes me want to thrust. Like it seems like a push cutter. However, the blade geometry really works better to pull back. which wasn't an issue when you're doing something like cutting paper or like running it along something. But when you're going to either chop or slice something, I did find it a little strange not having like a sharp point as like a push, or the handle is kind of strange for a pull. Now it does work both ways, obviously. You can, I was able to chop through that ginger with no problems, even though it's fairly fibrous. Just the factory blade they put on there worked pretty well. So, factory edge. Um, Overall, I mean, I think it's a good buy, at least at the Kickstarter price. They have promised some potential updates, including some handle scales, which may alleviate that problem that I just mentioned of it feels kind of different than the blade would have you think. If they've got like something to swell this handle, you could paracord wrap that, I suppose. That might fix it itself. But they've promised some things like some add-ons. They did not do any kind of like melanite coating or anything for this run. So they did say that they may consider some coatings or other colors, other finishes of the knife later on. They may also revisit the blade steels. So instead of S35VN and 440C, you may see some other versions of this in some different blade steels. I can say that it took them a little bit longer to get out the S35VN version. I think they had to really hone in their machining to work with that harder steel. So that it's possible that may go away. I'm not sure. Currently, they're not actually listed for sale retail on their website yet. So we don't really have a lot of answers to some of these questions. I expect, though, they have great communication over at Trayvax, so I would expect to see some answers to those questions pretty soon. Once they've made it through the Kickstarter, fulfilled all the orders, know what it's going to cost and what the effort is to actually put these things out, I think we'll get a lot of answers to those questions then. Overall, I'm very happy with the purchase. I just want to see more. I want to see different model knives from Trayvax. This one's fully satisfying what I expected it to. So I'd love to see them expand more into this territory. I want to see more options for this knife in general. Like I'd like to pick up the opposite version of this sheath so that I can actually carry it in the small of my back, but still have the thumb hold in the right position for my right hand to draw. Right now, I'm not aware of any way to actually obtain any other sheaths, so I'm happy with the version of the sheath that I got. It's how I want to carry it. But if it wasn't, I'm kind of dead in the water until they get those posted on their website and let people buy other versions. But again, I would expect to see that soon after they've actually fulfilled everyone's initial orders from the Kickstarter. And overall, I'm very happy. Trayvax, like I said, they're a US company. It's so much so that if we look inside this box, it gives you information on who actually manufactured the knife, the steps that they took, that they personally performed, which, I mean, it's incredible, honestly. You don't get things like that today from most companies, so I'm very impressed, very happy with it. Here's just some general information from them if you have any more questions. Very nice. I plan on hopefully picking up a contour. They make premium products in the US. Their products are not cheap. And I mean that in every possible sense. They are not inexpensive. and they are not cheaply made or finished. So I really have to consider sinking the money into a contour when my element is serving me perfectly well still. But I am considering it. If I do, I'll post a video, a comparison between the element and the contour, and I will let you guys know.